Hi, welcome again to Community Dialogues with a Sustainable Twist. I'm Faith Reeves. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator here in Fairfield, and I'm sitting with John Lipman. Hi, John.
Hello, Faith.
Thank you for sitting with me today.
My pleasure.
John is the nation's leading expert in Maharshi Vastu architecture, and he's an authority in Frank Lloyd Wright, contributing significant scholarly works and curated exhibits to the top institutions like the Smithsonian. His work spans architectural practice, historic preservation, academia, with earning state accredited awards for his contributions in both historical and modern architecture. John, I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate working with you. John is a RAC member. He's a part of our Resilient Action Committee. We'll get into that in a little bit. But first, John, I'd love to know, with your long commitment to Maharshi Vastu architecture, how does this design practice or principle enhance modern living environments?
It is a way of incorporating laws of nature that cause buildings to have different kinds of influences on us and make sure that only nourishing influences accrue to us. For instance, the direction that our bed faces when we sleep has been shown in much research to correlate directly with our mental health and our physical health, and as recommended by this ancient body of knowledge, and many other little principles like that in a holistic way.
Wow. That's really cool. You know so much about so many different types of architecture. How would something like Frank Lloyd Wright's style of architecture compare?
Well, I thought about that a lot because those are the two major interests of my career. And I have found links between the work of Wright and this ancient system that we call Vastu. But not really any obvious links. Just sort of when you look deeply, you think you can see a connection.
Okay.
They're two ways of integrating our lives into nature.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Yeah, and they both do it. And in my own home here in Fairfield, I tried to use both systems to get a double whammy of living in harmony with nature, and I love my home.
I've never seen your home, but do you have a stream running through it?
I have water very close to it.
That's so cool. All right. Okay. So given your experience with historic preservation and energy efficient design, which is really supportive of the RAC work,
Yes.
How do you blend these traditional and modern approaches in your projects today?
Pay attention to all of them. It's extremely irresponsible to design or build anything today that is not highly energy efficient. As energy efficient as you can possibly afford. It will pay you back financially, and it will be much better for the world and much better for the city of Fairfield. So we always pay attention to that. And when you're an architect, you have to think about 10 or 20 different things and balance them. It's kind of like juggling lots of balls, and I can't really say how we do it. It's just part of what we do. It's like a cook cooking with 10 different ingredients. They hope that something beautiful comes out of them all.
Wonderful. Well, I've experienced that from an anecdotal viewpoint, sitting with John on our every 2 weeks subcommittee meeting. John is a part of the Resilient Action Committee. He's in the Buildings and Energy Subcommittee, and we are meeting every 2 weeks with a larger group, not just John and I. There's a wonderful group of individuals who are committing their time and expertise to help really understand how we can help Fairfield be super resilient and to flourish around the built environment. And so recently, John, yourself and another member of the Buildings and Energy Group presented to City Council. Don Holting, who is a local professional developer as well. He's a professional in the community and a developer in the community. The two of them created a wonderful presentation, and it was around the topic of ADUs. Can you explain what an accessory dwelling unit is, and what their potential impact on on housing challenges are? How can they really solve problems?
An accessory dwelling unit, or ADU for short, is something that everybody is familiar with under any one of many different names. In some parts of the country, they're called casitas or mother-in-law suites. They are simply on a single-family residential lot, getting another small residence onto the lot, a second one. And it can be, for instance, converting an attached garage, or converting a freestanding garage, or building a little freestanding building in the backyard, or it could be in the basement or on an upper level of an existing house, or carving out something on the first floor that has its own entrance. An ADU will always have its own front door, whether it's freestanding or attached. It'll have a kitchen, it'll have at least one bedroom, maybe two, and it'll have living space. And so it's all that many people need to call it home. And ADUs have existed forever, but they're not currently legal in Fairfield except in one very limited part of the city. And so we are lobbying the City Council, which seems to be very receptive, to allow these in the zoning ordinance. And the reason that we're promoting them is because the city of Fairfield has a real housing shortage. It's almost a crisis, and it has popped up in the last two surveys that have been done of community needs as a really important lack in the city. And you can hire a developer or ask a developer to build a new subdivision on the outskirts of town and put in new infrastructure for it, and it's far away from everything, so everybody who lives there has to have a car. But we have so many lots that make up all of central Fairfield that have plenty of room on them to put a second little tiny house on them. And when I say tiny, these are different from what we call tiny houses in that they're permanent. They're on a real foundation. They're not going to pick up and move tomorrow. And they're usually a little larger. They're often around 500 or 600 or 700 square feet. So they're about the size usually of a one-bedroom house. Now, they have a lot of specific advantages for the folks in Fairfield. And I'm going to look at my notes so that I am sure that I mention the most important ones. For one thing, they can help an older owner and occupant of a house to make their mortgage payment, because suddenly they have another unit in their house that is contributing to their mortgage. They're inexpensive because the land is already owned, so there's no land costs. They're often rented to friends or family at less than market rate, so they, in that way, further can be an economical option for housing. They can make fuller use of houses, sometimes large houses that at this point in time are only occupied by one or two people. Next, we understand that today's usually childless households really only need very small homes, and an ADU can be a perfect solution for what are actually 2/3 of the families in America. Next, because they're often either carved out of the existing house or in the backyard, they don't alter the appearance of the neighborhood from the street, and particularly dramatically in comparison to building an apartment building, which really alters the character of a neighborhood. They are also typically managed by the homeowner themselves, which means that they're less likely to be tolerating a problem tenant, and so they can uphold the quality of the environment in a neighborhood. They're really good for young people. They're really good for downsizing older folks because of they're so economical. And so I could probably go on, but this is a good overview on reasons why accessory dwelling units have a place in Fairfield's future.
Yeah, it sounds like ADUs will really offer a lot to the strategy for dealing with Fairfield's housing issues. Are they easy to make energy efficient?
They are very easy to make energy efficient. If you're building a new ADU, you just have to make sure that the walls are thick enough to be properly insulated and that they are built in such a way that they'll be airtight. And those two strategies alone account for the bulk of what it takes for energy efficiency.
I see, we are a community who has a little bit larger senior population than most communities in Iowa. And so I can see where this might be a wonderful opportunity to do a little switcheroo, perhaps. If you have a larger home that is maybe a little more than you are able to manage long term, or that you'd like to, you might want to downsize. There's a trend I see where as we get older, we start to get really minimal in our living preferences in a lot of ways, really simplifying. And so if you're looking to be perhaps maybe on that track, having an ADU built, and then you have your larger home that's certainly a way to buffer the inflation of the current times.
And you can move into the ADU and not have to worry about going down a flight of stairs to get out of your house as you age. And the income that you get from renting out your larger house could easily more than cover the mortgage for the ADU. And so it could ultimately, in a way, be a kind of free solution for you, or maybe even truly a source of income. Oh,
that's exciting. I like that. So for Fairfield, what are the steps necessary to integrate ADUs into the Fairfield landscape? And how can we offer this approach, or what is this approach potentially going to look like, and how will other communities be served by the work that we're going to do?
First of all, we're lagging behind in the state of Iowa in not permitting ADUs. If I were to read off the list of cities that already permit ADUs, I'd use up all of the rest of our time and more, but they range from as large as the cities of Des Moines and Cedar Rapids and Iowa City down to some very small cities like Pleasant Hill, Clive, Altoona, and Charles City. They're all over the state. And what has to happen for them to be legal in Fairfield is a process of going through the city government. We've initiated the process, as Faith said, by making a proposal to the city that the city council have one of its committees study the subject, and that the city attorney contemplate exactly what the ordinance language should be. And I've sent him a whole collection of ordinances from other cities, and he's reviewing them now. And we are going to be meeting soon with either one or two of the city council subcommittees, and then it would be referred hopefully to planning and zoning, and they have to approve it and really carefully think through all of the implications on zoning, and then it would come for a vote to the city council.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for putting all of this energy and effort into approaching the housing issue in Fairfield. If you want to learn more, there's a wonderful publication on the AARP website. It is called The ABCs of ADUs. You can learn a lot from this publication, and I think that Cedar Rapids also put together a small publication that talks about how to approach ADUs in Cedar Rapids. I can't remember the website there, but I'm sure if you Googled Cedar Rapids ADUs, you might find it.
Yeah.
You and Don put together an amazing presentation. I'm really grateful for the work that you put together on that. And this is just one of the many projects that will come out of the Resilient Action Committee when it comes to working with the built environment. Thank you, John, for sitting with me today. Thank you for working with me over the last I've been in this position for almost 8 months. Thank you very much for participating so deeply and having so much commitment to Fairfield.